I found a an article that speaks to school safety, and I just found some things that need mentioning. So here's the video. I'll drop the link to the actual article down below, so check it out if you have time. But it's just interesting how some of us view school safety, especially. Anyway, let me leave it alone before let me start reading first. All right. Over the past several years, a string of high-profile mass shootings in U.S. schools have resulted in dozens of deaths and led to debates about the best ways to keep students safe. After 17 people were killed in shootings at a high school in Parkland, Florida, 57% of teenagers said they were worried about the possibility of gun violence at their school. Now, as horrific as it was, when it happened, because I'm in Florida, so that's the first thing. Oh my God, what's going on? And it's not too far from where I live. However, school shootings have been happening for years. Has it been on that wide scale? No, but I think it's who it affected this time, why it has become a big deal, and who actually did the shooting. That's why it has become a big deal. Yes, we've had Columbine and all those other tragic events. However, school safety has still not been addressed appropriately. But let's keep going. Figuring out how to prevent such attacks and save students and school personnel are problems faced by teachers all across America. President Trump and other lawmakers have suggested that allowing specially trained teachers and other school staff to carry concealed weapons would make schools safer. The idea is that adult volunteers who are already proficient with a firearm could undergo specialized training to deal with an active shooter situation until law enforcement can arrive. Proponents argue that armed staff could intervene to end the threat and save lives. Also, potential attackers would be less likely to target a school if they knew that the school's personnel were carrying weapons. It sounds like it's a good idea. I'm not sure I'm a fan of random people, even if they're specialized and they're trained to deal with the situation, because there is no attachment to what they're doing in the building, to who we are in the building necessarily. So, but I'm gonna leave it alone. Now let's see what the critics argue. Critics argue that more guns in schools will lead to more accidents, injuries, and fear. They contend that there is scant evidence supporting the idea that armed school officials would effectively counter attacks. Some data suggests that the opposite may be true. An FBI analysis of active shooter situations between 2000 and 2013 noted that law enforcement personnel who engaged with the shooter suffered casualties in 21 out of the 45 incidents. And those were highly trained professionals whose primary purpose was to maintain law and order. It's highly unlikely that teachers whose focus should be on educating children would do any better in such situations. And I agree. You don't expect a doctor to fix your car. Why would you expect a teacher, on top of all we have to do, to also protect your kids with a gun? And then, there's so many ways that could go wrong. So many situations where, and we've talked about it at work, where if there's a scuttle between two kids and you're trying to break it up or whatever, and the kid accidentally gets a hold of your gun, or you put it down somewhere, or it's left there's just so many scenarios where this could go horribly wrong. According to the National Education Association, giving teachers guns is not the answer. In a March 2018 survey, 74% of NEA members opposed arming school personnel, and 2/3 said they would feel less safe at work if school staff were carrying guns. To counter gun violence in schools, the NEA supports measures like requiring universal background checks, preventing mentally ill people from purchasing guns, and banning assault weapons. Now, ironically, all of the three things that were mentioned about preventing mentally ill people, background checks, and banning assault weapons, in my opinion, I don't see how that's going to help either. Because If I have a grouse or beef with you and I'm seemingly mentally stable, having a gun, I could still do what I need to do. Assault weapons, if I have a beef with you, like I said, granted, it will prevent more people getting harmed, but we've had kids using knives in school. If regular, gun, and I don't have an assault weapon, I can still do some damage. So we need to think of other ways to secure our buildings. I think it's just an argument when something happens for us to start thinking about it. I don't think there's a consistent thought about how to keep schools safe. Now everything, seemingly has gone down, and people aren't doing a lot to think about school safety until something comes up again. So it's not on the forefront of any legislature because it's not actively in front of us. And if it's being thought about, it's not done well, I guess, because it's been years since Columbine. We've been trying to keep schools safe, and we know that some schools, some areas of the country have it really horribly with all the school shootings. And now because of a certain area, I guess just like Columbine, it's been thrusted into the forefront again. But is it going to really be addressed? Whatever ideas you can think of to keep us safe in the building, let me know in the comments down below, and we'll have a discussion. Because sometimes a lot of people who have these ideas do not work in a school. They don't know how schools function. And a school like mine, just putting security at the gate to keep everybody out is not necessarily a good thing, because it's a community school. We cater to parents as well as regular folks from the community. We have a health center, and we cater to kids who come back to give back, pour back into our psyche, into our spirit. So keeping everybody out of a building is not necessarily the best thing. And now we have COVID. Now we've got to be kept safe from physical attacks with guns, physical fights, physical attacks with knives, aggressive parents or community members, and COVID. How are we going to keep our schools, or students, or staff, or teachers, or principals, how are we going to keep us safe? Let's have a discussion down below.